Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and as always, I am glad that you are listening. This week, I have two special guests on. I have Jacqueline Snyder and Minna Khounlo-Sithep, and they are the ladies behind the Product Boss. And if you've been growing a small business, a product-based business, which I know you are because you listen to this podcast, you probably have also come across them in Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to your podcasts, because they have a podcast also called The Product Boss. Now, Minna and Jacqueline have been doing this for a while, so I'm really happy to have them on. They are a force that is helping small businesses actually grow their businesses, especially in a time like this when businesses are struggling. They've grown a community of really high achieving product-based small business owners, and they've helped them scale their businesses. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm glad that they're on here, because we're going to talk about how you can do that as well. They've done this through their coaching, they have digital courses, and if you listen to their podcast, you know that every Monday they highlight a female founder. Minna and Jacqueline, thank you so much for being my guests, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So before we get into the conversation, can I just have each of you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to this point?
Absolutely. So this is Jacqueline's voice. Hi. And so I am a fashion designer by trade and a business strategist. And I have actually consulted over 2,000 fashion apparel and accessory brands over the last 14 years, start, launch, and grow. And typically those are not homemade brands. You know, they are definitely using manufacturers, using a designer, kind of going through the process in the industry way. So I'm definitely a startup expert, and I also have had my own product-based business, which was called Cuffs Couture, which was a wearable wrist wallet for when I was younger and I used to go dancing with friends, and I didn't want to put my bag down. It's like, raise the roof. You can't wear a bag on your shoulder. Yeah, right. Dating myself over here. So I did that and I sold it. I did it the traditional way where I used, sew houses and manufacturers. I had a publicist, I had sales reps, and I sold it wholesale globally, as well as dressing celebrities with that. So I definitely come from a more traditional route of the industry. And when I actually met Minna, so Minna and I are business partners. We do not live in the same place. She lives in Iowa. I am bicoastal between New York and California. And when I met her, I was actually hearing her name mentioned on a podcast. It was another podcaster speaking about Minna, and she'll get into her story, but she owns a very successful product-based business company. And they mentioned her because she does really well on Amazon. And I was like, ooh, I wonder with all my cuffs, when I was thinking about closing my company down, if I could liquidate those on Amazon. So I found her in this Facebook group. I reached out to her. We started chatting online. We started taking that conversation offline. We called ourselves Biz Besties because we spoke the love language of products, cost of goods, shipping, inventory, making, all the things. And then from that, she came to LA the very first time we met. We met in LA to host a panel for the Los Angeles Textile Show. And me, as a quick start, I was like, hey, Minna, should we sell a mastermind for product entrepreneurs after this panel? And she's like, sure. So the first time we ever met, we launched our business. We sold out of these spots in our mastermind. And then, now we're business partners and life partners and doing this podcast and really changing other people's lives, which is what we're really excited about.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. How did you know you would work well together? I'm sorry, Minna. I'm just so curious.
Well, we really became fast friends, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was more so that we had spoken to each other. I don't know if for all of you that listen to podcasts, there's this app called Voxer. And so we really, after we chatted with each other, we took our conversation to Voxer and we would voice app each other. So it's kind of like a walkie-talkie. And so we just hit it off and really, it's being a product entrepreneur is lonely, just like being a service entrepreneur. So I think we just became really fast friends that way too.
Yeah. At that point, we I didn't have anyone I could speak to about launching all these businesses, about kind of all the ups and downs, if like there's damages or returns or
Mm-hmm.
production issues. I was actually in a mastermind with other female entrepreneurs, but they had no idea what I was talking about or like my plight. And so when I met Minna, that was the very first part. And I think my brother thought we were nuts. He's like, "You're crazy. You're like, what if you're getting catfish?" And I was like, "I've seen her. We've talked." But I think that the Vox Rap, the cool thing about that and why maybe we became great podcasters was that we had to take turns in talking. So we had never, when we actually eventually started calling each other and having a conversation, we would talk over each other because we weren't used to actual real life conversation versus I speak and I'm done. And then she speaks and then she's done. So it was a really interesting way to start our relationship.
Wow, that's so interesting. I'm smiling because I know the feeling of having family members tell you you're crazy when you feel like you've made a friend that you met on the internet and they're like, "Oh, somebody's going to kill you one day." Like, no, they're real people.
At least they're looking out for us.
Yes,
Yes.
that's true.
And it just goes to show you that you can meet somebody online as a friend, right? Our worlds have really expanded because of, 2020. We were all forced online as businesses and as humans. And if one thing we saw, it was that people really need connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't let that be the thing that stops you from reaching out to people or putting yourself out there, is a family member saying you're crazy,
Yeah.
because it's done every day. People meet friends, people meet, I'm sure, you know, partners, as in romance even.
Well,
So
there's dating apps,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
there's
Right.
I feel like
we
it
didn't just invent that one.
I know. It feels like we've invented this, but there's things that have been around forever, and it is true that it just takes you, opening yourself up to that. And I think as entrepreneurs, it does become very lonely. The journey is full of ups and downs, and when you do have people that understand what you talk about, what you go through, it can just change your journey immensely. So keep that in mind for all of you.
Yes. Thank you, Minna. It also reminds me of starting the podcast. I don't know how it was when you guys started, but again, I was the crazy one. They're like, my dad would be like, "Well, who are you talking to?" I'm like,
My mom still will be
nobody.
like that. What's that thing again? The radio thing?
Yeah. Yes. So, Minna, how did you get here?
Well, every journey I think is like a windy road for every entrepreneur. And I really started, I won't go back that far, but really, my product business started in 2015 when I had my second daughter, and I really was looking for a solution for labeling baby bottles, but not in the way of that I had to order anything that was customizable, which I did for my first daughter. But when you have more than one kid, it's a whole different world. So I wanted something really quick and easy to label baby bottles for daycare and all the other stuff, but I wanted it to be dishwasher safe. And my background is actually as a graphic designer, um, that does corporate pieces. So we're talking annual reports, really fancy things that are print pieces, print collateral that would go to the press, and they would have different folding, latching, all those different things that were specialized commercial printing. And so I knew a lot about commercial printing. So when I had to come up with a solution for myself, which I really wanted to do, I knew a little bit about commercial printing with adhesives and what needed to be done, like with die cuts and all that sort of thing. So I basically came up with the idea, sent a bunch of labels to Amazon. This is a short story of it. I happened to be a part of the first Prime Day ever, which was in July of 2015.
Wow.
That really snowballed my business, and and then school started in August, so July and then August, which made it go even further. And so it was kind of like I was a little bit hit by lightning, but that really showed me that, you know, how blessed I was in that we as small businesses can be on a platform like Amazon. And I know that people have mixed feelings about Amazon, but there's tons of small businesses on there,
Yeah.
and so you can support a small business even on there. And, just like, with Etsy, you can support tons of small businesses. So small businesses are going places that we've never been able to go before. So my story kind of starts there, where I was doing really well on Amazon, learning everything I could about it. People would kind of identify me as, or they would dub me as like an Amazon expert,
Mm.
which I didn't really claim for myself, but I just knew a lot about Amazon. And then I was mentioned on that podcast, and then Jacqueline reached out to me, and then we started the Product Boss podcast. And so that's kind of where everything kind of changed to and evolved. I still have my product business. I still have low labels. So I have two businesses. Jacqueline has two businesses. And the Product Boss has actually taken over quite a bit because of the huge community that we're able to build and
Yeah.
the people that we attract. They are, just like everybody that's listening, surrounded by their products, unsure of how to take it to the next level,
Yeah.
really needing to have that help and that guidance of, each other, but also, when Jacqueline and I knew that we were onto something from those masterminds was because there was a gap, a very obvious gap of people talking only to service people. And we knew that product people needed to have help as well.
Yeah. I can so relate to you about how when you said as your community grew, it started to become a bigger part of what you were doing, but you still have
Uh-huh.
these businesses that you had to run. How do you each balance running a thriving community and keeping it, thriving and going, and still running your businesses at the same time? Because I believe the community kind of is an offshoot of what you started doing with your businesses. How do you balance that?
That's a great question. One thing I think that people think that they always need, and I guess from a product perspective, they think that they always need a community, but you just need your community in the right place,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think a lot of times you get caught up in needing to be everywhere. I know,
Yeah.
when TikTok last year took off, and I was like, oh my God, now I have to be a TikTok person. Um, and then there's a new app called Clubhouse, and we kind of lean into
Yeah.
that. And I think what we ended up doing was thinking, well, where is our community growing? And what Mina and I did is that was Instagram.
Mm.
It just happened to be we were way behind on the other people that have hundreds of thousands of followers because they started just a couple of years before us. But
Mhm.
and I will tell you, it took us a year to get 1,000 followers on Instagram. Now we're, at the time that you're listening to this, maybe around 40,000. I'm not really sure, but it took a really long time and an effort and to get like a really clear voice. So
Mhm.
I will say that we have product-based business owners that use social media and build a community as part of their way of selling. They may have a Facebook group. They may sell through Instagram and like people show up and they listen and they pay attention. And then there's other people that are highly successful. Like we had a $4 million Etsy company that we work with, who had, I think it was like a couple hundred followers on Instagram. She didn't have a community and she didn't necessarily need the community
Mhm.
to kind of cultivate. So when you're asking us how we do it, luckily there were two of us as we were building it. Um, Still the two of us really we stay consistent. So if we're showing up on Wednesdays, we show up on Wednesdays.
Mhm.
We stay very consistent. And then as our business has grown, we have actually hired team members to help us also maintain that.
Yeah. Okay. Now you mentioned that you worked with an Etsy based business before. I'd like to just talk about what you do with businesses that are run on Etsy and off Etsy, helping them to scale and grow, or just get better at what they do.
So we've worked with a lot of people on Etsy. Currently, we work with two people that are top 1% of Etsy. That was outside the $4 million one. And we work with people that are in, the beginning stages as well as, further down, like we mentioned, multi-million. And what the thing that we see is that I don't know if you've all heard that saying that a millionaire is a millionaire because they have seven streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that that could be adapted to being a small business as well. It's not that you have to reach that million, but in order to sustain your business, you have to be in more than one place. And before you think that you need to create all the things and go all the places and be all the place, be everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
it's different than that. It's taking the things that you're doing really, really well, and going where your audience is and doing that thing. So if you have bestsellers and they're doing really well, you take those that you can speak on really well, you know, that your audience loves, and then you carry it over into, you know, so you're taking let's say your bestsellers from Etsy, you're taking that and putting them onto your own website. You're taking that and you're speaking about it on, you know, Instagram and getting brand influencers around it. So whatever it is, it's not about creating more product. It's about creating more streams of income in a way that can help you sustain your business and stay really stable. We saw this last year for 2020. There was a lot of in-person trade shows that were, you know, canceled because of the pandemic. And then now, we were all forced online. Some people got on Etsy, some people got their own website, but really it is about diversifying yourself as a small business owner to be able to grow. To if something gets knocked out from under you, you'll still be okay in order to be able to adapt as you need to in order to grow, so you're not just completely shut down.
So, Minna or Jacqueline, what would you advise there? So there are two different types of sellers who are listening right now. There's a new seller or relatively new who is fresh to the market and his or her products have not yet been fully vetted. So they don't yet know what their bestseller is. How would you advise that person differently from someone who has been on the market and has identified their bestsellers and can follow what you just said about, you know, expanding on what's already working?
Well, we get this question all the time, right? Just depending on what stage you are in business. And I want to remind everyone that your bestseller does and can change. So even if you've been doing this for a very long time, there might be, you know, a lot of people will say masks were their bestseller last year, right? Because we kind of, Etsy was like, everybody make masks. And then that was the thing everyone was looking for. So as a startup business, we actually, and this is really for all of you and a lot of Etsy sellers have a lot of products, a lot of SKUs, right? Because you're a maker, you can make so many variations of things. And a lot of times every time you come up with a new creative idea, you will put it up on Etsy. So a newer seller, I would say, is be known for something. So if you're starting, you know, a bath and body line, is it like, are you making all of the things? Are you making bath bombs and body creams and face creams and room sprays? Or can you be known for something? And can you get really good at that? And how do you know? Well, you put it out there, you lean into it, and then you see if people are willing to spend money in exchange for your product. Now, Etsy is tricky because, you know, you're on someone else's platform, unless you're running ads, like you're waiting on, you're kind of waiting for people to discover you. So the other side is like, how can you get in front of people? And that's why for us, when we teach, we have a signature course called Multi-Stream Machine, which is helping you get more sales and more visibility. So are you also doing in-person shows? Are you doing farmers markets? Can you see what people walk up to and touch and smell and love and buy more of? Can you get in front of not only your friends and family, but, you know, maybe one level outside of that circle and pull them or see what they're willing to, again, buy and pay for. And a lot of times you'll find like a very similar scent, a color, a style, a size is going to be the thing that sells. Then when you get into, you've been in business longer, sometimes with so many products, maybe it's not so specific. Like I'm thinking about a stationery company we work with that's on Etsy. So maybe it's not specifically like she does hand painted illustrations. It's not specifically like the illustration, but it might be her notebooks do the best, right? So then if, if the notebooks are the thing that does the best, then we lean into the notebooks with variations on that notebook. So it's not to say you're not still making your other stationery, but when you start to really analyze this, you start to realize, wow, like I have my efforts. We say it's called throwing spaghetti at the wall. I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks and I'm going to catch somebody out of all the people. But if you're known for something and you can kind of lean in, then you get really clear on your messaging. You can direct their sales towards that, and then you can grow that. And then when you grow that, then you can do offshoots, variations, and other types of categories in your business.
Okay. Thank you. That makes perfect sense. And I know early, like new sellers want to do everything just because they feel like they're leaving money on the table if they don't try it all. And sometimes it's a struggle to say, no, just, you know, narrow down, just focus, because I think, and let me know if this is your experience, that as you said, if you're known for something specific, in the long run, can you be actually more successful financially speaking, when you are known for something very specific, as opposed to being known for many things and being average across the board?
Yeah, when you're known for everything, you're actually known for nothing because
Mm.
people don't know how to refer you. They don't know how to talk about you. You know, if you're able to say, "Oh yeah, go to her for clean skincare that's made for eczema," then that is so, you know, easy to refer. It's word of mouth that makes it really easy. People can talk about you. But not only that, your customers can tell stories around it that you could have really boiled down messaging, right?
Yeah.
You get better at selling it, you get better at making it, you get better at all those things, and you can gain momentum. When you're trying to do so many things and your efforts are split between, let's say, a whole bunch of areas, you're just not able to gain momentum. The feedback is not very clear on
Yeah.
what works and what doesn't work. So it feels like you're in a constant chase.
Yeah.
So you know how you said, they feel like they're leaving money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a lot of people do feel that way. They're like, oh, I can try this and maybe they'll come in with
Mm-hmm.
this and then they'll end up buying these other things. But you end up trying to chase all these sales when the idea really is that you become really good at what you know already sells and figuring that out and the way you speak on it, make it, and all those things like I said, and then your people are able to refer you, and then you're attracting the right people and you're also repelling the wrong people, right? And
Right.
that's how people really really grow. When we've worked with businesses that are in the multi-millions, the way they've gotten there so fast is by doing very focused work,
Mm.
very focused messaging, and it wasn't from doing all the things for everybody. It was about getting really focused and gaining that momentum and really pivoting and leaning in where they saw customers, what customers really wanted from them, their customers, not anybody else's.
Yeah. Okay.
But to add to that, so we've seen so many types of Etsy businesses. So let's call it that $4 million Etsy business. It's a lot of personalization party products. But she was so cued into her business that she knew what sold best. She could tell us on her, like she could say, these are the 5 things that I can sell all day, every day, and they're the bread and butter of my business.
Mm.
So as she started expanding, again, she was $4 million. So she had the ability to expand. She had the revenue there. But what she was known for, people would refer her time and time again, and they would actually come back and buy more and more and more
Mm.
of certain party products that was just her thing. Now, my mom's a maker. She's on Etsy. She's made baby blankets forever. And then she started making these beautiful Moroccan hand painted baskets.
Ooh.
So what Mina's talking about is my mom has like 7 sewing machines in her room, tons of fabric. But when she had both up on Etsy, she saw that the baby blankets people were doing. She wasn't highly competitive in that realm. The baskets and the way that she was doing the baskets was slightly more competitive. And what we're talking about is your processes. So while you think that you can capture, it's like casting a really wide net, like fishermen casting a really wide net and hoping, you get all the people in there.
Mm.
But what's the quality of what's in there versus with her now, she gets to order just certain products, right? She orders her baskets. She has a process down. She gets the order. There's a few variations to those colors. She paints the customization because they're customized, and it's a process. So now she's been able to really efficiently do it quicker. So her cost is not as high, like in labor, because I want you all, especially our makers out there, to think, if I hired someone to replace me, what could I hire them at? And like, how much would they cost per hour? The more things you're making, the more people you would need to train in that trade. And it actually ends up costing you more than making you more money in the long run.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, that's a twist because, yeah, because, I guess the common thinking would be, if I get more, if I'm, how do I want to say this? If I have more people, if not more, more people, being me, I can make more. Like if I can multiply myself, I can make more, but not necessarily is what you're saying.
I'm saying that your cost, you absolutely, I think when we think about hiring, especially for all of our makers out there, that when you're thinking about hiring, the first hire that you might make would be either someone to duplicate you in production, so
Mm-hmm.
the making, or someone to duplicate you in the fulfillment. Those are the two things that kind of you eventually become your own bottleneck. So when we're thinking
Yeah.
about making more products, it's not in the way that that's not the right way to go about it. It's more of the cost per hour of a human being learning all the different trades and doing all the different things. So if you are, let's say you are my mom and you have, your baskets and your baby blankets, and then you're also making pillows and crib sheets and you're doing all these things, right? It's a different kind of labor. So while you are the talent and you might be able to do all the things, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually going to need to find someone who knows how to sew, and you're going to need to find someone who knows how to paint. So if you're thinking
Yeah.
about expanding your business, I guess I want to just push back to the idea of being known for something.
Yeah.
That way, then during her high seasons, which are spring and summer, travel seasons, people can be like, go to her, go to the shop if you want this basket. Not
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I don't know what she makes, but she makes stuff. And then they can send you to that. So it's really, Mina's whole business is built off of a couple of products with a few variations, and it is a wildly successful business. So I want you all to realize that you can still be very, um, you could lean into bestsellers and be wildly successful still.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think that that will bring some comfort to somebody listening, because a lot of time, and even in the Etsy literature, Etsy has what's called the seller handbook. One of the things they advocate is fill up your store, more products, more and more and more. Um, but the more we talk, and even in my own personal experience, I have come to the realization that more isn't necessarily better. What more does is yes, it gives you more touch points for possibly bringing more traffic to your shop, but it doesn't necessarily um like you said, make you the one to go to for something specific, which I believe is what does keep people coming back, when they know that you're the one for XYZ.
Right. So even if a Etsy maker, let's say they make jewelry, right?
Mhm.
And they're really known for their bestseller, which is, you know, fine jewelry. Let's say it's fine jewelry and it's necklaces.
Mhm.
So you can do so many different versions of necklaces. So Jacqueline and I will call variations, right? You
Mhm.
could do mother daughter ones even. You could do, silver gold, whatever that is. But does that mean you have to do earrings and bangles
Mm.
and anklets and toe rings? No. You focus on the necklaces if that is your bestseller.
Mm.
So while Etsy is saying to do all these things, that doesn't mean that you can't do variations of things.
Yeah.
Things that make more sense. The idea really is that you don't have a confused customer. So a confused customer doesn't buy. So sometimes when you come to Etsy, and I will say a lot of the times, if they come to your store and they're like, there's so many things, I feel so overwhelmed,
Mhm.
there's so much decision fatigue, they will just abandon that Etsy store
Mhm.
because it'll be too overwhelming for them to understand what is it that you're selling and what is it that they need to buy at that time.
Yeah.
But if it's like a necklace for mom and you've really honed in on the messaging, it makes it really clear what their journey is and what they're there to buy, even if it's like, oh, I like this, I
Yeah.
really want this. And so it really is about eliminating those obstacles and the confusion for
Yeah.
the customer, and it's not done with more confusion and more products.
Yeah.
I guess to add, like we like and she said this on our podcast. So Susan Gordon Pottery is in our mastermind, and she was top 1% of Etsy. She started there, right? She had a full-time job, but she was also a potter, and she started creating pottery. And the easiest way to sell to people is Etsy, in the way of like that there's a customer already there. They do all their work getting you the customers there, and
Mhm.
you just have to have the product for them to buy from you. So she started with her pottery. She didn't start with pottery and because right now she has jewelry as well made out of the clays that she makes pottery with. She didn't start with both. So she started getting known for her wavy bowls. She made mugs, I think, at that point, and some other things. And yeah, she had variations, but at least she was using pottery. So like one material, the
Mhm.
kiln, painting, and you went to it. Instead of like, I know all of you are so creative that you can make all the things, But then that's the problem, right? They show up and then they're like 12 pages later, what do I buy? So the people that I've bought from are like, if you are a jewelry company, maybe you're known for cameos or, hand pressed jewelry and it says like mama on it. Okay, now I know I can buy, gifts that are personalized. And it's jewelry. And I know it's like bracelets and necklaces. You start adding on rings and stuff like that, then you're dealing with sizing and you're dealing with, are rings necessary? Yeah, you can make them, but do they need them? Or are they coming for the hand stamp necklaces and hand stamp bracelets, for example? So I think it's just really starting to think about that refining, and it's hard. And trust me, whether you're a startup, a 5, 6, 7-figure business, we work at all levels with people trying to figure out, well, where's my best margin? What are people actually buying? When are they buying it? And then the hardest part is that cutting part, like taking certain things out. But that's why, that's what we work with our students on. We have free challenges. So if you come over and follow us at the Product Boss, you'll kind of get to know about when we do these challenges. And in the first part of the year, we do the Bestseller Secrets Challenge, where we help you work through all of this. And then in the second part of the year, which you guys are all coming up on, is we have a challenge called the Rock Your Holiday Promotions Challenge. And that's where we help you gear up for the holidays. So we're always trying to offer free information so that you can find your way through this as you're learning.
That sounds fantastic. And if you're interested in the challenges, I'm going to have links to all this information so that you can connect with Jacqueline and Minna's community, the Product Boss community, and get plugged in to these things. And for somebody who's listening, and if you're wondering why you're not getting that sale, I think what Jacqueline and Minna just said has explained it, in that maybe you're doing a bit more than you should, and maybe it's a matter of cutting some things out, and perhaps being around people who can look at your baby from the outside and help you trim things where they need to be trimmed might be helpful, because sometimes we get so insular and, it's hard for us to let go of things that we've created or that we've set our minds to do. And so I think that's one of the benefits of being a part of the community that you've formed, is just getting that collective wisdom and insight.
Yeah, for sure. I think that one of the big struggles that we have when it comes to people that are makers is that they feel like they already have talked about it one time already, or they feel like, oh, they already know. But the thing is, it really takes reinforcement. You really, just because you say something once, or just because you say something, even within the same week, for example, on one platform, you still need to say the same thing on a different platform. So it's all about reinforcing. Even on Instagram, less than 4% of people see your posts, less than 4%. So even on Facebook, that's a certain percentage. So you're getting some people over there as well. That's why Jacqueline and I are always pushing people to get emails for your list, right? We want you to get emails, and then only a certain percentage of people see your emails as well, but that at least it's a direct connection, right? So all of this is a consistent effort into making more sales, and it really is about those touch points. It was something like 8 or 9 touch points before somebody would buy from you. I bet now it's even more because of social media. And so you're really just trying to bond with that customer in order for them to trust you and buy from you. And then you just keep saying the same things over and over. Sometimes they don't buy immediately, or they didn't hear you say it, or, you're talking. I know it's hard thinking that, but I'll be talking about the same things.
Yes.
But I talk about the same things over and over and over. Jacqueline and I talk about the same things over and over and over. And it really is about, sometimes you say in a different way. Sometimes they're listening more than they were the other time. Sometimes it's on a different platform. It's just about reinforcing your messaging.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel the same way too, where it's like, I've said this so many times, I don't want to say it again. I'm going to sound repetitive, but you're right. And even personally for myself, I'll hear somebody say something and it won't click, until like the 6th time I've heard it. And then it sounds fresh and new, like, wow, that's a novel idea. And they're like, yeah, I told you that like months ago.
I actually just tested this yesterday because I know we're not talking about Instagram and Reels right now, but the last time we had our challenge, I had posted a Reel, and I decided, you know what? I wonder if I posted again during the same type of challenge that we're doing, which is our bestseller secrets challenge, which we're recording this in the past because you're listening in the future. But I was like, let me post it again and see what happens, because like Minna said, only 4% of people see it, and it's not the same 4%. It varies on the time of day that you post it and who's paying attention. So I decided to just post it again and see if it got traction. I have a whole bunch of comments of people saying like, love this, so cute, and I'm like, oh yeah, totally different people commenting now than the last round. So the multi-million-dollar businesses that we work with, and I just want to say this, and this is going to be like shocking for some of you listening, but I want you to say this to yourself. Makers can be millionaires. Okay. So makers can be millionaires. You just have to figure out how to scale your maker business. And so for some of our makers, like we have a jewelry maker, she has other makers now making it to keep up with production, but she's a multi-million-dollar business. She sells gold bangles. And when you follow her on social, she has the highest following out of everyone we work with in our masterminds, for example. She's constantly talking about the bangles, the fit of the bangles, the stacking of the bangles, why you're buying the bangles. Literally, it's the same information over and over and over. And am I annoyed by it? No, because she's reinforcing for me decisions that I need to make. Yeah. She's helping me, like FAQ, right? Decide on what I need and what I want. And different times during the year, it might be time that, oh yeah, I'm ready to buy it. Or, ooh, I need a present for my mom. Let me go buy it now. Yeah. So I want you all to just get really clear on, you think you've said it and everyone's hearing it, but they are absolutely not. And so it's easier for you to get really clear on your talking points, because if you're able to talk about the same stuff over and over, that's how you get known for something. And that's how you pick up people along the way that didn't hear it. And if they did hear it, they're not thinking about your business all the time. Yeah. So they need that reinforcement, you know?
I think everybody that's on Etsy knows that nobody reads, nobody listens.
Yes.
And you have to say the same things over and over, and they still need it over and over and over. So it'll be fine. And then also I wanted to mention that business that Jacqueline was talking about that has the most followers that of a company, they still only have 60-something thousand followers. We're not talking even over 100,000, not even in the millions, right? And so keep that in mind you can be a millionaire. All of the makers that we work with, have that possibility. Like Jacqueline said, some of them have makers that make under them. Some of them have pieces that they have manufactured and it's split. Some of them, they get really good at the one thing and then they make variations of that. So there's different versions of this, different paths to profit for everybody is what Jacqueline and I say. Sometimes it's not Instagram. There's plenty of people, like we said, that have less than 500 followers on Instagram, like that 4 million one. Hers is she took the manufacturing in-house and got more machinery, better machinery, for example, and so really think about that, because the sky is really the limit, and the limit is actually in all of our minds. So as makers, when Jack and I are working with makers, a lot of times they're like, but I can't do that. I can't have other people make for me. I can't give away my creativity, or I can't teach somebody else to do what I do. Yeah. And what you'll find is that even Susan Gordon Pottery, she hires ceramicists or potters, and she's found, and she said this on our podcast, that they are even better than her. They're even better than her. Sometimes they aren't. She skill builds them, and sometimes they are, right? Yeah. And then she's building industry, and she's building jobs and everything for her small business. She's employing
makers who at some point wouldn't do this. Like they may have been trained in pottery, but where would they go? So she's actually able to give jobs to other makers, which is one of her biggest impacts, I do want to just quickly talk about what we were talking about before, because I think something that's really important for all of you to think about is we fully believe in Etsy, and we fully believe that you can build multi-million-dollar companies on there. You could be a 1%, or you could be a hobby. It could be a side hustle. It could replace your full-time job, whatever you want it to be. But I think one thing that we really want you all to realize, and I know that you help them with this, is that idea of like, if Etsy were to shut you down and pull one of your best-selling products, or they were to close down your shop because it's not your place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't own Etsy. What would you do? Right. It actually happened to my mom. One of her best, sellers, somebody was like, it's copyright infringement. It totally wasn't. But all you have to do is have one person say something.
Yeah.
So how are you going to keep your business going should something happen? So that's what we did with these multi-million-dollar businesses that we talk about. They were growing their email list while they were growing their Etsy shops. They eventually built their own e-commerce site, which I know you help people do, right? Like to get from Etsy onto like an e-commerce site.
Yeah.
And that way you're backed up. And what you have to realize is if you're building your email list and you have your own site, then all of a sudden, if something were to happen, you could easily email your list and say, hey, you could buy it over here. Or you could start to open that up as a secondary stream of revenue. Because different people will find you in different ways. Some people may not want to shop off of Etsy. They may want you to just give your URL and they want to shop directly from you. And then we have another maker who started on Etsy. She was doing custom tumblers and custom bottles, like soap, shampoo bottles. And when working with us, she went through we have a signature program called Multi-Stream Machine. So she went through this course, and what she realized is that she also realized her bestseller, and she took what she was customizing, figured out how to make it scalable. And then she actually took that and put it onto Amazon. So again, that's like what we've been talking about this whole time, is taking your bestseller, something that you can scale and grow and make more of. You get really good at that production. And she was able to, she went from being a $2,000 a month business on Etsy to now she's making between $30,000 to $50,000 a month by having Etsy, Amazon with only one of her products. So think about how simple that is.
Yeah.
And she has her own website, and then she works with like influencers and stuff like that. So that's exactly what we teach in that program, which is that idea of like, we're not going to turn off that Etsy faucet. We want you to have that. Your business is built there, but how can you kind of, if you have more streams of revenue, your business can actually start to double, triple, quadruple its revenue by getting in front of other people's eyes on other platforms.
Thank you so much, because that's exactly where I was going to go next. So let's stay on track as we're listening to this. So first we talked about, being known for something. And then once you figure out what you want to be known for, or if your market has determined what you can be known for, has showed you what your bestseller is, then honing in on that. And then once you know that, expanding and diversifying your revenue streams, and branching out beyond Etsy, which, talk about saying the same thing over and over again. If you listen to this podcast, I preach, Etsy, yes, but think beyond Etsy. It doesn't all have to, begin and end on Etsy, because, I've had people on the podcast whose stories where they got shot down by Etsy, and some were reinstated and some weren't, and you never really know. And so so branching out for the multi-stream machine. So someone who now wants to expand beyond Etsy and diversify their income, what's the best stage to engage with that program or to enroll in it? Is it okay for newer sellers, or is it better for people who have been on the market and selling already? Who is an ideal candidate for the multi-stream machine?
It's really anybody at any stage. We actually have the $4 million business, like we even said. So somebody who's very far in her journey but didn't have the quote unquote formal business background, right? And we also have people that haven't even gotten their product in hand, but they know what product they're going to sell, and they want to know which direction they're going. So are they going to, in multi-stream machine, like Jacqueline had mentioned before, we teach systems, visibility, and sales. So it's really about, systems is really about us plugging any holes of where you might be draining money or where you might lose money, common mistakes that we see. So we go through pricing, photos, shipping, and inventory. And then for visibility, it's about drawing the right people in, grabbing those eyes, and getting, more eyes on your business, and being more discoverable. And then for sales, it's about the different channels of selling and all of that. So it really comes together in a way that it can be for just about anybody. It must be for somebody who sells a physical product based business, or a physical product based, or a physical product.
Yeah.
And they are a physical product based business.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you're in startup or if you're, more deeply into your entrepreneurial journey.
Okay. So printables out.
Yeah, printables are probably out because
Okay.
it's digital.
Yeah.
But unless
Um,
you are printing your physical things, and then we have a lot of people that are doing that as well.
and I do want to just jump into that because a lot of people do like that direct to print. And
Mhm.
I think the people who do sign up and join Multi-Stream Machine are people who realize that it's not sustainable in that way. And so they want to start thinking about and learning how or what they could bring
Like print on
in-house.
demand is what
Print
you're.
on demand.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like oh yeah, sorry. I think we're talking about two different things. The downloadable printables, if it's not a physical stocked good, probably not ideal.
Yeah.
But if it's a like a
Print on
direct to
demand.
print on demand. Thank you. I'm like
Yeah.
flipping my words. I think there's a lot of times, and a lot of you listening might be doing business in one way, and you don't realize that you have other options and other opportunities. And I think the coolest thing about our course is that it's not dripped out and it's not a direct path. So we don't say start at point A and end at Z, and it's the same for everybody. So all of these instances of us giving you all these different types of people that are selling and these different business owners is that each of you have a different product, a different way of making it, a different goal for your life, a different way you want to live your life. And so we help you see your options and your opportunities. And like Minna said, we give you your path to profit. So you come in, you go in the welcome module, and then usually we say go through the systems module because a lot of you are probably like, there's a lot of money probably being lost in pricing for sure, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you choose, well, where do I want more visibility, right? Maybe I'm going to lean into social, or maybe I really want to build my email list, or I do a lot of in person. So how can I grow my visibility in that way? And then I want to add on a second stream of revenue. So it's not like you all go to Amazon or you all build your own website or you all sell wholesale, but rather we teach those, and then you get to choose, is it right for your business and do you want to implement it? And we do that without any gatekeepers. And we also teach organic marketing. So we're not telling you have to pay for ads.
Right.
The only ads we say is in Amazon. If you go that way, that is part of playing that game. But other than that, it's all very organic, and like you can get up and selling in a matter of days, right? And then start to test and try new platforms, test and try new visibility options, and really start to see your business grow.
Okay. Thank you for jumping in with that, because that was going to be my next thing. I was going to go down the list of, Etsy has like pockets of, like they're the people who are all printables. So we address that. And then I was going to talk about print on demand. So thank you for addressing that, because that's of particular interest to me, because that's where I live on Etsy. But then we also have vintage sellers who sell products, but not products they've created. Where do they fall in the multi-stream machine? Do you think that it would be appropriate for them as well?
Yeah, we actually have boutique owners that do the same thing, right? They're buying from
Nice.
other people and reselling in their brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So same sort of thing, you're buying vintage and selling on Etsy. It doesn't give you exact, step by step, but the concept is there in that you're selling products, you're building email lists. Sometimes you do have like a, in-person element to that, or what else is there? You need to know your pricing is correct. You kind of have to do a little bit of finagling in the pricing and stuff like that. And then, you still will have to ship out those goods, so the shipping, you'll still have inventory as well, and you'll have to photograph them. So it does fit. We do have brick and mortars, and, sometimes they're vintage, sometimes they're not.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, Jacqueline and Minna, you've both co-founded the Shop 1 in 5 pledge. Can we talk about what that is and what the goal of it is?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So last year in 2020, we really saw the small business as the hero, right? The governments were funding small businesses to keep them going. Small businesses that were thriving were able to actually employ people, while bigger businesses were letting go of employees.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that were furloughed. And so what we saw was that, and the other thing we saw was that local small businesses mattered more to their communities. Because at that point, right, there was a point, remember last year, that Amazon couldn't ship. Like they couldn't ship
Yeah.
everything. They also couldn't meet their 2-day delivery. There was this time where the world went haywire and there was no Amazon. And it gave small businesses this opportunity to step up and step in.
Yeah.
And USPS wasn't delivering fast. And so then there was that idea of local pickup, porch pickup. So we saw this crazy transition last year, which was really cool because we saw small businesses, especially product-based businesses, really thrive. People were home and they were shopping. So the Shop 1 in 5 pledge was this effort that we want to make, that we ask you to take the pledge. So it's shop1in5.com. It's the number 1in5.com, where you pledge to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business, online or offline. Because there are those movements out there about Main Street USA shopping, Main Street USA one day a year. But we want this just to be something that we start to incorporate into our daily lives. So if you're out shopping, and I'm just thinking about where I live, and I'm like, I could get in my car and I could do drive through Starbucks, and I can hit up Target and Home Goods. This is all like pre-pandemic Saturday life, right? I could hit up all the big box stores and go through my drive-through Starbucks. Well, if I made one effort during that day instead to go to my local coffee shop, or to go to a boutique for my kids' toys instead of the aisles at Target, that would be my effort, and 20% of my purchases, which is 1 in 5, coming from a small business. So that's the pledge. That's our outward facing pledge that we're asking. And we need our community. We need your community. We need small businesses to share it with their consumers to back that up, so that we are all making that pledge to support small businesses. And then on the other side of it, we wanted to support those small businesses. So we actually created a small business shopping directory. Product-based businesses are on there. There are Etsy sellers that are on there. And it was this directory that when we do press, we show up on podcasts like this. We've done, morning shows where we're talking about what to buy for Mother's Day, Father's Day, back to school. We go to our directory and then we talk about those small product-based businesses that consumers can buy from, and it gives them an actionable place. Because a lot of times that hiccup, you'll say, support small businesses, and people could maybe identify the brick and mortars, but they don't know where to find them online.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make that connection for everyone.
Thank you so much. Yes, I really appreciate you doing that, and just the whole idea of shopping small, because yes, last year was a struggle, and I saw a number of local independently owned businesses that I used to support fold, and they still haven't recovered today. So I'm taking the 1 in 5 pledge. But also I checked out the small business shopping directory as well that you put together. And it was so nice to see, well, one, how you structured it and broke it down into categories. And I did see some Etsy sellers on there, and it kind of warmed my heart, because I thought, oh, this is so nice. They're, helping to drive traffic back to other small sellers and people who have their own e-commerce websites too. So I will definitely have a link to the small business shopping directory so that folks can go and check it out. And how does a business get listed? What are the requirements to become a part of that directory?
We're actually rebuilding it, and it will launch again sometime in August and September. So you can go to the waiting list. It's at shop1in5.com.
Okay.
And there's a waiting list right now, but it's really, when we kind of have the FAQs on there, but when we think of small business, it is defined by you must have less than 50 employees. And that's how the government defines it. So for us, the same thing. We want to support all the small businesses. Like Jacqueline said, it is a commitment to shop 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business. And the commitment part is where we try to make it more of a lifestyle. So you can make it very actionable. Because another thing we saw from last year was that people were more thoughtful with their dollar, just like you, wanting to support small businesses, like you said, because you saw other businesses fold. this is a way for everybody to know, okay, I can go here. I can know where my dollar goes, and I can make it really actionable and sustainable, because a lot of times we'll make, commitments or pledges and we forget about them.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's, really working it into your real life and your daily life.
Yeah. What are other ways, if any, that folks can connect with the content that you have out there? For sure, there's the Product Boss podcast. And anyone who's listening to this one, it's easy to find podcasts. Obviously, they know how to do that. What other ways can people connect with the information and the training and the education and community, the education you're putting out there, as well as the communities you're building?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I would tell you, if we're at theproductboss.com, on social media, it's at the Product Boss. We do have a community. So when it's Facebook, what does it mean? Is it facebook.com/theproductboss?
Yeah, it's facebook.com/theproductboss. I mean, I think that probably the easiest way to do all of this is that we're always on Instagram if we're not on our podcast. If you go to @theproductboss,
Okay.
that's where you'll get this two-way engagement or two-way conversation with myself and Jacqueline.
Oh, nice.
And everything is linked in the bios as far as the Product Boss Biz community, which is our free Facebook group. We always are talking about whatever we have perhaps is a challenge during this time that you're listening, and those are free, like we had mentioned before. And then all of our podcasts are on anywhere you listen to podcasts, of course. So,
But I know we talked about this, sorry, prior to the call, but this is actually something we wanted to do for your community, because the multi-stream machine program is not always, the doors are not always open. But I know that some of you listening are like, yes, I want to take action on this. I want to diversify my streams of income. I want to get on other places. So we're actually going to give you a link to, it's like our secret backdoor link. So even though doors are closed right now, if you want to learn more about multi-stream machine, you'll have a link in the show notes. And that would be a really, we want to just help as many product bosses thrive, like not only survive, but thrive. And so this is one of our ways in which we can help do that.
And I really do appreciate you ladies doing that for my community and for people who are listening to this podcast and do want to jump on it. I was kind of sad when you said it's not open all the time, but that you would open up a secret hideaway door like Chronicles of Narnia for the folks who listen to
Don't
this.
tell our community, but for you guys, you get it.
No, they get it too, right, when they reach out. But we know it will be so beneficial, and we appreciate you just helping us as well, Ijama. So thank you for allowing us in your show notes as well.
Oh, you are most welcome. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you both. And I have learned for myself, because some of what you were saying, you were preaching to me. And in my head, I was thinking, stay in it, like stay in the conversation, stop making your own plans. Because some of what you were saying, I was making mental notes like, okay, I do need to do this and I should go change that. So thank you so much.
True entrepreneur.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and be my guest and share your knowledge and about your community and what you're doing for small business owners who want to grow and just product-based businesses, what you're doing to help us grow and be better. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us on.
You are welcome. And I thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. I will be back again with another episode next week. If you need to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Etsy Conversations. And of course, the website convome.com will have all the links to everything we talked about, including the backdoor and the Instagram link to connect with Minna and Jacqueline. And if you just want to jump over there, it's at the Product Boss. That's their handle. So you can just hop right over there and connect with them. And I will be back with another episode next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.